I think where we initially came in working with the Sharing Center was on the volunteers project.
Mhm.
You guys put out an RFP that I think we responded to and started work on that. And I would love if you could just tell a little bit of a story about that volunteers project and how that helped with you guys being able to, because I can't remember, I don't want to misstate, but I thought it was something like, once we had everything automated, it was saving like 40 hours of work or something crazy like that. But if
Yeah.
you could talk a little bit about what you guys were doing and then what you ended up moving towards and how you were able to save all those hours, I think that would be super valuable for folks looking for areas to just sort of like get rid of paperwork and automate some stuff. I think it's a great example of that.
Yeah, so I would say before Blue Gator, we were using clipboards and roster papers
Right.
in our various different departments. Again, keep in mind we are across 36,000 square feet, and so each department had a clipboard where volunteers were requested to sign in and sign out, but not everyone did, and nor could you legibly read handwriting all the time, especially for new volunteers. We didn't really know who that was. We also have student and court ordered volunteers as well, where it is more critical that we're able to actually track their hours against what they're slated to serve with us.
Mhm.
And so there was a lot of different issues, as you could imagine, with the clipboard method. And so I started doing some research about the way that other organizations are leveraging Salesforce in order to track hours. And I came across this one organization, I want to say that they were out of Minnesota, that built a portal, more or less, a clock in, clock out system, where volunteers, again, would clock in, clock out. Um, and sorry, I'm just going to go backwards. All of those pieces of paper had to be manually entered in by another volunteer, who also had to sign in and sign out on a clipboard and track their own hours basically within the system. And it just got so inundated with um, time.
Mhm.
As you can imagine, like going to each person's record, adding a new volunteer hour, making sure that everything's correct, making sure that you are even on the right, profile, the right supporter profile, because again, there could be a Sarah Smith, and which Sarah Smith is that? And so by we received a grant from the Florida Volunteer Florida, and it was actually driven to produce a capacity building opportunity for a nonprofit to support the volunteer program. And then that's our relationship. That's when our relationship with Blue Gator, the RFP,
Yeah.
began. And so what we did is we worked together very closely to design this clock in, clock out system, both from a physical standpoint, so what's going to happen on our campus, but then also within Salesforce. Um, and so it took us probably, I want to say about 6 months, 4 to 6 months to like design what that actually looked like, what the automatic emails are going to be sent out, creating those emails as well. So the back end engagement pieces where, somebody clocks in for the first time, welcome, thank you so much for volunteering with us. And then after so many shifts are served and kind of again moving them down the engagement track, but it all started with the clock in clock out system, and then also the training. So with any new technology, of course, there's training, and a little bit of pushback. Our volunteers sometimes skew a little bit older, and they like the old way. Why are we changing it? And so we had several training sessions and just kumbaya moments, if you will, and to let everyone know how important it was that we were moving forward. And so like we ended up having our volunteers who were originally and they loved this opportunity. We ended up taking them out to lunch and everything before we made the actual switch, or bringing lunch in actually. But we made sure that they had a role within the organization that they would be using, because we did take away about 40, a 40-hour FTE role within our volunteer jobs.
Mhm.
We had 2 to 3 volunteers every single week to enter in this data. And sometimes we were 2 to 3 weeks behind, the actual date
Right.
of
Yeah.
service. And so, between those two pieces, we wanted to make sure that our volunteers as well were very comfortable with moving into another area. We didn't want to make them feel like we were just removing them, because again, a staff person was not doing this. And so I just think that that's so important when you're looking at transitioning into a new technology is understanding that people connect to the work that they're doing
Yeah.
or and everything. And so that switch, I would say probably we started that at the very beginning when we started this project, so that once we did, turn the triggers on and everything was active, that we had a much more smoother transition into, okay, now so and so is going to serve in, this department and welcome them, and
Yeah.
everything, so that it wasn't like, oh, I'm not going to serve with you anymore because I wanted to do this. And so we kind of worked in tandem with the technology part, the engagement part, but then also the people management aspect as well.